So tell me a little bit. You got an interesting background. You were a college professor. What did you teach, and what made you go into the dryer vent cleaning business? What's the founding story of your business?
I worked at the university as an advisor for about a decade. Then I taught business ethics and philosophy and sociology. And like anything, the pandemic was pivotal in changing my direction. I had to figure out how to homeschool my child and still support my family. And I figured the best way to do that is to start a business.
How are you getting the word out about your business? What was your marketing plan going into this? What was your plan of attack? How did you get the business off the ground?
Well, I started the business by doing every door delivery matters, which is, as if anybody's done it, incredibly expensive. And then I tried to price compete and go for the lowest price. That probably wasn't the smartest move.
At what point did you feel that people took you really seriously? Like how much did you have to invest before people were like, oh yeah, this is like a verifiable business that's there, I trust it? Or was it kind of like a gradual thing? Or was there a moment?
About 200 reviews. I would say it was right about the time I crossed that 200 threshold. And what was amazing to me is I look at traditional businesses, there's businesses that have been in business for a decade, and they're just getting 200 reviews. I am just into my 5th year, and I've just crossed the 600 5-star mark.
All right, welcome to another edition of the Superpro podcast. I'm Roland Ligtenberg, your host and also co-founder of Housecall Pro. Since 2013, we've been on a mission to champion the trades and also champion our pros to success because the work you all do makes our homes safer, better, more comfortable, and keeps our communities running. Through Housecall Pro, I've had the privilege of helping hundreds of thousands of pros just like you to empower and achieve y'all to stress less, redefine success in the industry. I'm really excited today. We've got a great guest today, Scott Larson. He's the owner and founder of Lake-Sumter Dryer Vent Cleaning. They're a dryer vent cleaning business based out of Fruitland Park, which is just about an hour or so outside of Orlando, Florida. Scott's got a really cool background as a retired college professor and is utilizing and playing around with different AI things to help him with his business. And so we're excited to talk to him about that. He's also on track for a growth goal of $60K in revenue with 1 employee, 1 truck. Scott, welcome to the show.
All right. Thank you very much.
So tell me a little bit. You got an interesting background. You were a college professor. What did you teach and what made you go into the dryer vent cleaning business? What's the founding story of your business?
Well, I was actually an adjunct. I worked at the university as an advisor for about a decade. Then I taught business ethics and philosophy and sociology. And like anything, the pandemic was pivotal in changing my direction. I had to figure out how to homeschool my child and still support my family. And I figured the best way to do that is to start a business. So I researched all the different trades out there, and in doing so, I looked at dryer vent cleaning and found that, we have thousands of homes that burn down every year. 90% of we have thousands of homes that will catch fire because of appliances in the laundry room, but 90% is a dryer, and about a third of those are just a simple failure to clean them. So there's a need there, and it's a pretty staggering number. I mean, you have 16,000 homes that burn. You have millions of dollars of damages. People lose their lives. It is an essential service that has to happen. What happens is that the airflow gets restricted in the dryer. It builds up lint, it's incredibly flammable. And as the dryer gets blocked, you have a cycle valve that goes on and off and will wear out to the point that it fails. And when it does, the dryer heat elevates and it lights like a fuse.
Sometimes combusts. Yeah. And so you found something that every home these days has a problem with. And so as you were thinking about how can I, both do some homeschooling, take care of my kids and build a business at the same time in the pandemic, this sounds like a big enough problem that needs a solution here in my area in Fruit Park.
Right. And we live next to the largest retirement community in the world, the Villages. All of the vents exit through the roof, and you have to get on the roof to fix it, which means that most of the residents there are not capable to take care of it themselves. I mean, there comes a point where you just don't want to get on ladders anymore or work on roofs. So it's an essential service that has to happen, and it's one that they need to hire people for. I also found that there, like all services, there's professionalism, and a lot of people will come in entry level with minimal equipment, and there's opportunity there to really kind of double down on the capital investment and really do a good job and stand apart.
Sure. So based upon, I mean, there's clear need. You don't want old people falling off the ladders. So you've got a captive audience. How are you getting the word out about your business? What was your marketing plan going into this? What was your plan of attack? How did you get the business off the ground?
Well, I started the business by doing every door delivery mailers, which is, as if anybody's done it, incredibly expensive. And then I tried to price compete and go with the lowest price. That probably wasn't the smartest move. In my first year, luckily I had a retirement, so I was able to cash in the retirement, and I knew that I wasn't going to make money in the beginning. Most businesses don't. You have to establish yourself. Really set out to try to establish a reputation. The first year I paid to work. I think a lot of people do that, really focusing on that. But then the problem was, how do I establish myself? Well, you can chase down customers afterwards and plead with them to give you reviews on Google, because really Google business is the foundation, but it's difficult and it was a frustration. I was meeting with a local business owner, and I was explaining the problem, and he stopped me in mid-sentence. He said, "Housecall Pro. Get it? You'll thank me later." And that really was what my foundation was, because as I was able to go out there and really focus on doing a good work, Housecall Pro was in the background grabbing my Google reviews.
Yeah.
And it automated that process. I attribute actually the entire success of what got me in the door with Housecall Pro was the Google reviews.
And I think that, for a little golden nugget for those that happen to be listening here, when you're first building a business, people want to know that you're legit. And so you got this cold start problem where you don't, you may or may not even have a web page, maybe you have a Google business profile page, maybe not, or you have zero to very little reviews. And so pretty quickly you got to kind of build up that credibility, to where someone goes, okay, I look at this page, the Scott guy, his business looks legit. Okay, I'll have him climb on my roof to go clean my jars. Like, at what point did you feel that people took you really seriously? Like, how much did you have to invest before people were like, oh yeah, this is like a verifiable business that's there, I trust it? Or was it kind of like a gradual thing? Or was there a moment?
About 200 reviews. I would say it was right about the time I crossed that 200 threshold. And what was amazing to me is I look at traditional businesses. There's businesses that have been in business for a decade, and they're just getting 200 reviews. I am just into my 5th year, and I've just crossed the 600 5-star mark. I mean, the ability to build that rapidly, to the point now that in the beginning it was a lot of money in marketing. I mean, I was doing jobs for $50 a job. The overhead was $65 when you included marketing. I was losing $15 on a job. Because I had to run and chase every single customer with immense amounts of money. The word of mouth and the Google reviews, even when I do marketing, 95% of my calls are because they have found me online, read the reviews, or heard about me from neighbors and friends. I mean, it was a game changer.
And I think it's one of those things where people don't realize just how important making sure those reviews you get are. And the earlier you start, the better, because it's similar to I wish I would have saved $100 a month when I was, 18 years old. Because now, you'd have millions of dollars. It's compounding nature. But same with reviews too. You build them, they spit around. You're at 606, perfect 5-star reviews. I mean, it's very clear you've got a lot of user-generated content there, which is rich. And great data for LLMs and AIs to look at. How are you thinking about that? Is that even a part of it, or is that something where you're like, okay, now that I have that will show up too? When people are searching on ChatGPT or Gemini or AI mode, or
you can't ever assume that it's just going to show up. I got into the AI as soon as it came out. I mean, I'm a techie in there. I would say at least once a month, I'm going on to AI and having it review everything and give me tips and pointers to what to change. What a lot of people don't realize is Gemini is Google. Google is the one who does your placement. And so if you want to know what you're doing right or wrong, you go into the algorithm that decides how well you're doing, and you can ask it. And I do regularly. I'm doing website redesigns on a consistent basis, changing marketing messages. If Gemini comes back and says you have to do this, I'm going to take that as an authority, because Gemini is built into the algorithm that tells us where on what page we are.
That's right. Yeah, and clearly being a part of that map pack, which for those that are listening, like, what's a map pack? It's those top listings right there on Google, right below the AI summary now, by the way. All right, so you get AI summary, map pack. So, the more data you can put out there in the web about your business, especially if it's user generated via like reviews, because of the compounding nature, you add those things in together. If you ever feel like, oh, I'm not an SEO guy, or I don't know what I'm doing, you could just ask. It's as simple as having a conversation with someone that will not judge you, because it's just AI.
Yeah, and the important thing for any pros out there who really are trying to get into AI, it's all in the prompt. A lot of people will go into this and they'll use it like a Google search, and that is not the right way to use it. I will go in there and say, you have a PhD in computer science, you have worked at Google for the last 30 years, your job is SEO, and you have just been given the task to tell me how I'm doing. So you build that expertise in the prompt, and then you ask it the question, and the responses you get are just wonderful.
I think there's definitely a lot of people out that are like, only the people using AI, or like the young kiddos, the Gen Zs that kind of coming out. But you're saying, you taught yourself. How did you teach yourself? Was it just curiosity, or how did you? If someone came to you that was like, Scott, I'm your age, I don't know about this AI gizmo thing, or like, what would you tell them?
Well, first I just started playing with it, to be honest, but I learned something that was really neat. I've actually picked this up in the last couple of months. If I can't figure out how to do something on AI, I tell AI I'm having trouble on doing this on AI, and ask it to explain me what I'm doing wrong and how can I do it better. And it will stop and it'll say, this is the prompt you gave me. It doesn't make a lot of sense. You need to clarify it by doing X, Y, and Z. And so AI is now teaching me how to use AI. And sometimes it says you're using the wrong AI. You need to go over this one or over that one. But it's become my teacher. It's become my marketing expert, my PR person. For a small business owner with a dozen hats, it is revolutionary in the ability to do things.
I mean, look, I'm going to highlight this for those that are listening. The golden nugget that Scott just shared, which is like, if you feel like you're not good at using AI, you can always ask AI to teach you how to be better at using AI, which sounds kind of very like, the parlance of maybe like meta or something that's like, what, but think of it as it's like a teacher, and think of it as someone that can help you with whatever it is, whether it is helping itself with using AI, and so I think totally doable. I love that beginner's mindset that you have. One of the things, in the pre-interview here is like, as you're thinking about growing the business, expanding, you're thinking a little bit about launching service plans. Talk me through like how you're thinking about that, why that's important, what your next step is, and why didn't you do it last week?
Well, I'll tell you, I did launch service plans when I first started, and I stopped because my data was wrong. I was under the impression that people need to get their vents cleaned every single year, so service plan was perfect. I go in and I start looking at the data. I go out a year later, and if you do the job correctly, you have the right equipment, and you set everything else up. Where we are in the villages, it's about every 3 years. And there's lots of variables for that, which I won't get into technicality, but my problem now is if I'm servicing people every 3 years, I don't have points of contact. I'm not building a relationship, so you don't have customer retention. But in doing my work, I noticed that the key Achilles heel in the vent system is the gooseneck on the roof. If the lint builds up there and you don't identify it, the damper doesn't open, it fills. So now I've come up with a way to give a value-based plan of simply going up there, doing diagnostics, checking that, and if I can identify lint building up before it becomes a problem or remove it, it can create a cascade of effects. So I had to create a value system. What I love about Housecall Pro's service plan, though, is it gives you the and you're supposed to make the contacts. It gives you a lot of flexibility within it. So I'm going to have a service tech that I'll be able to hire based on how much I'm charging for that, and then I'll be able to maximize the efficiency of my equipment. See, most dryer vent folks in my area have what I call beginner level, low end vacuum brush system. They're not very expensive to get into. I'm trying to corner a commercial market that requires a different level of equipment. So, thousands and thousands of dollars. But if I'm driving around to houses that don't need to be cleaned, then I'm not using that equipment efficiently and not making revenue off it. So this allows me to do a low-end, valuable service for the customer. And then that technician, when they identify the big equipment's needed, they can schedule me to come out. I'm maximizing the use of the equipment, also giving peace of mind, because when I say 3 years, it's an average. If somebody's doing, the average household does 350 loads of laundry a year, almost a load every day, and they deal with winter 6 months of the year. So the stuff they're doing produces a lot of lint. In the villages, you have two folks, usually one or two people in the house, so they do less, 3 to 4 loads a week. And the stuff that we wash and dry in Florida, quite honestly, doesn't produce a lot of lint because it's hot here. And so they...
Yeah, you're not doing like big sweaters and yeah.
Right. But that doesn't mean that that's everybody. So we can monitor it. If somebody buys a whole bunch of towels and blankets, they may have a problem. They don't want to wait 3 years to find out they have a problem. And so this gives them peace of mind. It helps us with customer retention. It's going to maximize the efficiency of the equipment. So it's better for my business. It's better for them. But when I first started looking at doing a service plan, see, Housecall Pro got me in on the Google reviews. Then I start discovering everything else. I start discovering the detailed customer notes, which, oh my God, it's just amazing. The photos, so I can go back and I can benchmark things. But then when I started exploring the service plan, it takes care of all that. I mean, it's literally like having an administrative office at your beck and call. It's almost automated, and you guys just keep getting better with more. But yeah, the service plan is going to allow me to completely automate the entire customer service experience.
Yeah, and for people that are listening that maybe aren't using Housecall Pro, inside of Housecall Pro, you can create a service plan, and then effectively you can have it billed monthly, quarterly, annually. You can create different tiers. So something may include a whole bunch of different options, or things that you may or may not do. And so inside of Housecall Pro, once you have the card on file, it's just going to bill. And so it's just like a Netflix subscription, and it allows you to bill in advance of the work, in arrears of the work, however you want to run it. There's a lot of flexibility there, but the most important thing, the little golden nugget here is like, how do I stay in front of the customer in a way that I'm still driving value and I'm not just messing around and charging them for something that I don't really need to do? So you have to identify what are the things you can offer that have that value piece. And at the same time, too, you've got an expensive truck that's got expensive machinery and things in it to help with the bigger stuff. You want to make sure it's used efficiently. But with service plans, you can kind of start to route things because you might not be locking in a certain date. Just, hey, something has to be cleaned in spring or summer. And so you can start to build some route density. So you can build some efficiencies just within there. So there's just a lot of great reasons why, I think pros, whether you're using Housecall Pro or not, you should start using some form of service plans or memberships or comfort clubs or whatever you want to call it, recurring agreements. There's a million different ways to kind of pitch it, but that's very, very smart, especially given the customer database you've been building up over the last, 4 years or so now.
Yeah. And something else to really point out is, like I said, I started using the service plan. It didn't work. I was able to turn it off, go back to the drawing board. I know how it works now, reevaluate the service, and then go back on it. So it's not like you're locked in if you want to try something. If you try it and it doesn't work, you can back up. Because there's a lot of Housecall Pro, it's the Baskin Robbins. There's a lot of stuff there. And, you can tailor the different features to work for your business. I don't think I'd be in business today if I wouldn't have found Housecall Pro. When I found out dryer vents didn't need, my plan was originally spend money, get the customer to service them every year, but the initial cost was in the first year or two. When I found out that it's going to be 3 years before they need me again, that would have put me out of business. Housecall Pro is what kept me in.
Yeah. And, I think when people are taking a look at Housecall Pro, it now inside and out. You mentioned it's changed a lot too, and different features and different things. And you were able to turn it on and then turn it off and then come back when you're ready. So there's clearly a lot of things. What's something that you think is underrated that maybe we as Housecall Pro don't talk enough about? Something that maybe, isn't a big old flashy add-on feature. What's something that you think is underrated that Housecall Pro kind of offers those people that they don't quite hear about?
I can tell you what I underrated and I don't anymore is the automated emails. And the ability to communicate. Before the podcast, I had a customer reach out. They don't text me. They communicate through Housecall Pro. But the automated emails, I didn't think they were working. And then I got a customer who said, I got one 2 years ago and I didn't get one last year. People don't say, hey, I got an email. But when I turned it off, they said I didn't.
Yes.
The chat bubble on the website is really nice.
Mm-hmm.
People who are looking for service companies, they want a person to touch base with right away. They don't want to wait. And I can have that set up to go right to my phone. So I don't have to sit in an office in front of a computer. I don't have to sit in front of a phone. There's the ability for them to communicate with me directly in the field, me to keep working, respond back, send it over to my scheduler.
Yeah. And it's just nice to have it all at your fingertips, because oftentimes you're going to be out and about. You're not going to be sitting in your fancy office. You got all the great diplomas. You got the Superpro certificate. You're not going to have this big monitor to deal with. You're not sitting there glued waiting for someone to chat in, just like you're out and about with your phone. Those little things maybe are underrated, but that allows people to, when they're on your website, they can contact you directly. Like you said, people just want to get service quick, answer some questions. Let's get going, especially when it comes to dryer vent cleaning and jobs that are typically, only a couple hours, maybe half a day, something like that, but, not like a big project. Tell me a little bit about how would you rank yourself from just a computer savviness? Maybe when you're first starting to use Housecall Pro, so take yourself back to kind of 2020, 2021 time period. If 0 is like how I define my in-laws as, they need me to like power on the TV, to 10 being like, computer whiz, coding up the next generation LLMs, where do you fall within that spectrum, or where do you kind of consider yourself there?
I'm on the high end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
I really am. First computer I got, Atari 800 XL, and I've been on them ever since, and that was 81, I think, at 6. But let me say this about Housecall Pro. I have other people that use it besides me, and they aren't as computer savvy, and they don't have problems with it. It's very intuitive and easy to understand and navigate. I forgot today, and I want to go back to this, that the online scheduling was a game changer, so we have to touch base on that, because that's so huge.
What's huge about it? Like, how would you describe it to someone? They're like, well, what do you mean, Scott? What do you mean? Like, what about it?
When I got started off, I had competitors that would either have somebody at home that didn't work, that's able to answer the phone call and make appointments for them, or companies that have receptionists. Well, we're a 2 working family, and for that first 3 years, it was just me, and I am working on roofs. I cannot be sitting there taking appointments. I did not know how I was going to pull that off, so I immediately jumped into the online scheduling, and I incentivized it by giving a $25, because at first people don't want that. They want to call somebody and talk to them, but I incentivized it with a discount. If you go online and schedule, $25 off. I never heard anybody say they wanted the phone call again. They did.
And that's such a great golden nugget right there. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love it.
And the pandemic helped it happen because people got used to doing things on the computer. My target audience are, it's a retirement community, 55 and above. You would not think that population would schedule online. I have more people tell me that they love the way it works, and whatever I did to program that scheduling system, which is yours, that is so intuitive and easy that they love being able to pull up their calendar and figure it out. And I figured out ways where I do big windows and fill them up, and then the day before I can arrange houses geographically and shorten those arrival windows down. But it's a lot of the 5-star reviews, if you read them, it's about ease of scheduling, on time, the communication, being able to get a text when I'm on the way, see my picture. I mean,
yeah,
especially in the villages, trust is everything.
Sure.
And it made me look like a big, huge corporate company right out the gate.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of people will go, well, Roland, online bookings only for the Gen Z or the millennials, and like they're the only ones. But it's just funny to hear you validate and say, because I see those bookings come in. I'm like, there's no way. Like, everybody uses all ages. And it's as simple as like, it's a form that says, are you a new customer, returning customer? Where's the dryer vent termination? You can do a little drop down. What kind of a vent is it? Is it like semi-rigid, whatever? Is there a roof type? It is optional, but those things just give you the data you need to be able to quote a job and let people feel like, okay, I scheduled it. I can kind of check that mark off my to-do list and I can go about my life, go do something else versus having to call, wait to hear back from 3 different people at times that don't work for me. Your way is just front loading some of that on the customer, but they get the benefit of being able to check that box off.
What really shocked me is customers have to cancel. I mean, it happens. I will ask them, I'll be like, because I don't want to lose them, I'll reschedule for you right here. And they'll say, no. I want to be able to sit down and pull up my calendar. I'm going to go back to your website. They prefer to do it online, a lot of them.
Yeah. So. Wow. Oh, that's just so validating to kind of hear that. What's something that you feel like, now about Housecall Pro? You can't talk about service plans. You can't talk about review generation. There's something you know about Housecall Pro that you're like, man, if I'd only have been doing this since 2021 when I first started with Housecall Pro.
See, I dove in pretty quick. So, within the first 30 days, I'm the one that's going to sit there and look at every video I can find and read everything. I really want to master it. I can tell you some of the stuff that you've been developing, the AI I'm starting to play with on there. And when you guys started, you didn't have the ability to have a person answering the phone. If you had that, I probably would have signed up. I have somebody to do it now, and she's great. So I told her she doesn't have to worry about that. But you guys have the back end where if you're a Superpro, you can go in, and maybe everybody can do it. You can see what you're working on. You can vote on what you like and don't like. And it's the ability for us to be able to bring important things up, and changes have happened because of it.
Yeah.
But it's just amazing software.
This is really good to hear. I think, for a lot of people, when it comes to software, they often feel like, it doesn't work for me, or they won't build what I say. But, what Scott was referencing is, we have a roadmap online. We have the ability for pros to submit pro votes. And by the way, most ideas aren't new. So somebody probably already submitted it. So you can go look at other people's pro votes, and you can upvote them. So they kind of hit up towards they kind of go up, right? They kind of drift upwards. And so you can kind of get a feel for, the types of things that other users are looking to have Housecall Pro build, but also the ones that we ship and we build because we document it. We show what's in progress, what have we built, and where are the ideas. So I think if you're out there and you're looking at software, oftentimes just knowing that it has active development and they're listening to the users to build the thing. We're not on roofs all day. We're behind desks. We're sitting all day. You all are having the standing jobs. We're out doing stuff, and so that's where the feedback comes from. We need to get that feedback to close that loop. What would you say, Scott, if you were to tell younger Scott, maybe Scott a decade earlier, so, pretty knowledgeable in life, but not where you're now, not the same wisdom. What would you tell young Scott, business-wise, life-wise? What kind of advice would you give yourself?
Quit my job earlier and start a business. I mean, it's scary to do it. I've wanted to do it for a long time, but that is a leap, and I was forced into it. And the biggest regret I have is waiting as long as I did. I mean, if you're younger, you can have time to build it. You should go into it knowing you may fail, and you should be allowed to fail, and then have time to pick yourself up. I mean, this is my second business. My first one was not good, and I learned a lot of lessons from it, but I would have started this a lot younger. I think sometimes our worst enemy is ourselves.
That's really good advice. I think oftentimes people overestimate how difficult things are, and that's what stops people from taking action right away because they think it's just too big of a thing. But sometimes just that first little step is a step in the right direction. You just got to carry that momentum a little bit forward.
And I think the best thing is just when you are out there, if you're starting a business or working with customers, is to be authentic and honest. I mean, I really do. Everybody makes mistakes. When I make a mistake, my customer will never find it. I will always tell them first, and then I'll fix it. And that authenticity, it goes, I would say I get a lot of people, the few mistakes that I've made, I've turned them into solid customers and gotten lots of referrals out of them because a lot of customers are not used to that level of integrity. Say what you do what you say, and when you don't, you make it right.
Yeah. And I think that works for any kind of business is oftentimes, own up to it early and often. And I think people will recognize that because they themselves are fallible and make mistakes. And I think that's where there's still a big difference between AI and humans, in the sense that, the human will often own up to those things. And that's really what people will buy in the end of the day is that human to human, empathetic, can make mistakes, but will do what it takes to make it right. And I think that's what you mentioned, which is like, now you got a repeat customer for life because they know like no matter what, it's going to get done. mistakes or not, you're going to get it done. And so regardless, whether it's dryer vent cleaning, which could be a little more catastrophic if you don't get it done, or other trades, even if it's cleaning, you're like, oh, I missed this spot, I'll come back next time and do it twice as good, or whatever it happens to be. That's a really, really great outlet. Scott, last question for you today. If people want to learn, because you seem like the guy that's constantly learning, and you can't say AI. You cannot say AI. Where do you listen to podcasts? Is there a book you recommend? Is there like a person, a Facebook group? Where would you say people can get a lot of knowledge and value?
I get a lot of knowledge from, I won't say that word, but from podcasts. It's I do my own website, and because I want to have control, and it's really not that hard to do it. You just have to listen to SEO podcasts. I listen to them once a week so you know where to go. Really, podcasts are a lot of where I learn the new information. The thing that I'm not supposed to mention, AI. AI is just everywhere. I mean, it's everything. Yeah, podcasts.
Go listen to podcasts. Is there one in particular you like to recommend, or you just kind of take it all in?
I take it all in, but I think the one I've been really wanting or really listened to lately is The Greatest SEO, I think it's called. Mm-hmm. But the SEO podcast, SEO is everything. I mean, you have to master the SEO, and I am not a proponent that SEO people are not going to like me saying this. I'm not a proponent for hiring other people to do it, so I need to have control of the website, and I need to know what's working and what's not. Besides that, any new tips I'm picking up, I am building a learning center out on my website. It's a project I'm currently working on, and there's plenty of information out there. It's mostly dryer vent stuff.
Yep, definitely. Well, that's awesome. Scott, thanks again so much for coming on the podcast. This is really easily well over time, but you've got a wealth of knowledge. It's been really fun chatting with you. I wish you nothing but success in your business. And for anyone else that happens to be listening, if you're not using Housecall Pro and you'd like to take a look, you'd like to get a demo, you can always go to housecallpro.com/podcast deal, housecallpro.com/podcast deal. You can always text me too, 858-215-1512. I will connect you with the right person depending on what you want. That's my cell phone. Put it out there. Let me know what you think. As always, we'll have another great guest on next week. Scott, thanks so much for coming on this week.
Thanks for having me.
All right. See y'all next time.
The Superpro podcast is brought to you by Housecall Pro, the leading platform for the home service industry. Housecall Pro streamlines your workflows and simplifies everything from scheduling and dispatching to communication and billing. Unlock the full potential of your home service business with Housecall Pro. Work smarter and more efficiently with streamlined workflows and detailed analytics. Win more business and serve your customers well, every single time. Join more than 40,000 home service pros who have already revolutionized their businesses. Work smarter with streamlined workflows, get organized with centralized information, and scale your business your way. Learn more at housecallpro.com.